Okay, we are now live, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Council. I'll call the regular meeting of Council for June 15, 2021. Call to order. I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Sorry, let me just change my screen here. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Groenewegen. Any number 3, any declaration of interest? Not seeing any. Number 4, announcements, awards, ceremonies, and presentations. Councillor Dufort.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to share that my organization that I'm with, the Colcrook Fiddle Association, had our annual year-end gala at the beautiful Fisherman's Wharf, and it is such a beautiful place to hold a function. We've just had a marvelous time. The acoustics were wonderful. Everybody was there. They brought their picnic chairs with them and beautiful view of the river. And I just wanted to share that if anybody is looking for a nice place to rent before the COVID restrictions are lifted and you need to go outside, beautiful place to rent. Thank you.
I was there. It was excellent. Yes, good job. Any other announcements, awards, ceremonies, presentations from council? I'd like to just commend staff and a couple of our local volunteers for putting up a new crosswalk there in downtown with the feathers. Recognition of the 300 the children that got were found in Kamloops. So thank you everybody that participated in that event. It looks like an awesome thing for our community. Yeah, Councillor SAO Smith, do you have any announcements?
Nothing from administration. Thank you. All
right. Moving on, we have item 5, regular meeting of council May 15th. I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Dufort. Second by Councillor Chambers. Go ahead, Councillor Dufort.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River accept the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 18th as presented.
All in favor? Motion's passed. Item 6, administration inquiries. SEO Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We will start with the Director of Protective Services tonight, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The department has been keeping up with its busy trend this year. Currently for the month of June, we've responded to 32 ambulance calls. To date, we've had 2 false alarms and 3 fire calls. Ongoing initiatives for me are renewing the safety program Employees First and setting up training for it on this Friday. I'll be finishing up a fire report and investigation report for the structure fire we had on June 1st, and I'll be renewing my first aid certification over the next couple of days. We're also looking at developing an unsightly enforcement plan for the town over the next couple of weeks with Glenn and Travis and myself. So there'll be more to come on that. Currently the department training, like I said, there'll be a first aid course posted here over the next couple of days. That's for the summer students for the town. And for the department itself, we finally got dates finalized for our phase 2 testing for the NFPA 1001 professional firefighter, which is August 13th to 15th. So we have our training schedule in place, and we're going to be pretty much working full weeks and some weekends to make sure that we're prepared for that date. This week we're starting with we'll be training on water supply on Thursday night. So that's all I have for an update.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councillor Willows.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. One quick question. Of the 32 ambulance calls we've had since the beginning of June, do we know how many of those are a result of intoxication because of different substances?
Director of Public Services.
Yeah, I can, I don't have those numbers on hand, but I can pull those numbers for you for the next meeting, or even get them to Glenn and he can inform you. But yeah, I can pull those numbers to inform at least what impact that is on us, and yeah, and any other stats or specifics you want me to look at, I can do that.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Councillor Willows?
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Knapp? Oh, go ahead. Councillor Anderson, you had a question?
Yes, Councillor Willows asked the question that I was going to ask, but I guess as a follow-up to that, I'm just wondering what is happening at the hospital. Is that program still in place where the people are ending up there, or staying there the night, or what's happening in that area? Thank you.
Councillor Willows maybe had some information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, it's sort of was leading into a number of questions and concerns that I have, but we're averaging 4 to 5 a night at the hospital for intoxication and other issues that is causing great alarm and concern, obviously. It's starting to impact on morale for the nursing staff, of course, who didn't get into nursing to be working at a sobering center. And so it is of great concern, and I know that there's some work going on, and I intend to bring this up myself when through the Leadership Council when I'm in Yellowknife here next week. It's a multi-department issue, and I guess I'll save the rest of my comments as we get into the RCMP report. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I think the RCMP, we have a report, but we don't have a delegation, but maybe that's something we need to, when the mayor gets back, we'll maybe have a conversation about getting a multi-group together and having a conversation about solutions and areas of concerns and maybe improvements we can make there. Anybody else have any questions? I see, Director, you have a new volunteer. Our former Chief Potter was on a call last night or a couple nights ago when I seen him there. So he's continuing to serve the community. So good to see. But I'll pass it on to SAO Smith for the next report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just add to, I think, to the comments that our Director of Protective Services made. We have had some conversation recently about tracking some of the statistics, especially in this area, in terms of our responses. So you do see the metrics that come through our monthly reporting, but some challenges obviously is what categories to track, and in some cases falling into multiple categories. But I would suggest that if there is any other categories or specifics that you council would like to see us tracking that can support some of the liaison work that they do, or other needs in the community they're tied into, just let us know. Those can be sent to us, and we can work towards accommodating. Go to the next update from our Director of Recreation and Community Services, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Updates tonight. First, I'd like to update Council on the fact that we've enacted the increased occupancies and other relaxations that the JWT and Chief Public Health Officer allowed regarding COVID restrictions. Again, there have been increased occupancies for all spaces in the community center. The aquatic center is most impacted, I would say, with also some relaxations regarding the use of showers in the change rooms and some of the equipment that was off limits initially. Department was also following closely the GWT's announcement and their release of Emerging Wisely 2021. At this point, there's little impact regarding current Department of Recreation facilities and operations, other than the fact that outdoor sports and gatherings in our green spaces and recreation facilities have fewer restrictions at this point. We've been in communication with some of our sport user groups and confirmed some of those details. At this point, we're not receiving any questions from them, and it doesn't seem to be any concerns from the public health, the GWT, and things seem to be going well. Our next steps would be to see when the GWT would relax restrictions on indoor gatherings. I don't believe there would be much impact for the community center for the summer months. What I think we will be reviewing most closely will be at the end of August, early September. We'll be reevaluating the GWT's guidelines and restrictions to determine how the ice seasons would be affected and whether we need to submit new plans at that point. Some updates I have regarding swimmer numbers. I'd say that swimmer numbers have been very good in past weeks. We had 336 swimmers at the Aquatic Center last week. That's an average of 48 swimmers per day. The numbers have been between 40 and 50 swimmers per day over the last few weeks. That's a significant increase to previous months, and I would say previous years also. I'm hoping to, in my June report, I'm hoping to do a better comparison to numbers in previous years, but I would say that our numbers are up. I think that's partly due to people being grateful to being able to access the Aquatic Center after the COVID closures, but I'd say also due to more consistency in our pool schedules and the fact that we have a full complement of staff and we're offering swimming lessons week over week, and I think there's consistency in the programming we're offering also. Our aquatic supervisor has been working with ITI representatives to prepare for beach attendant partnership this year. We're set to have some of our staff at the beach starting July 1st, and that would continue until August 29th. Partnership is similar to last year, where we would be providing beach attendance services at the Hay River Public Beach 7 days per week with at least 2 beach attendants between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. The pool will remain open in July. We do have the staffing and the availability to keep the pool open in July. And that will include some swimming lessons and regular programming that we're offering right now. But we are planning for an annual shutdown and annual maintenance in August, which possibly could extend to September. We're confirming the scope of work for that shutdown at this point. Our staff have been heavily involved in planning and supporting special events. Again, given that a lot of the recreation activities have transferred out to green spaces, and given there's more allowances with regards to the activities we can do outdoors, there have been staff been actively involved in some of those preparations. Our recreation programming supervisor has put out public communication regarding our Canada Day festivities. Those were initial communications just to indicate that the town is planning a parade. There will be subsequent communication regarding the details on Canada Day, and also what other community groups are planning for Canada Day. We supported a minor ball tournament, which had a Hay River team playing with 4 Yellowknife teams. It was a great success. I was there a few times this weekend. It was great to see those youth participating, and some of the younger kids also seeing what fast pitch can be for youth in town, and hopefully we get some kids that have that interest and continue playing in future years. Adult softball leagues have their seasons fully underway at this point. Staff are supporting with regular maintenance there. We also have staff that are supporting the Hay Days Festival Committee and supporting them in their modified format for their festival this year. We're still figuring out the details as to how the town can and will support. But I'm sure we'll be able to support them in some way and ensure that that festival can be a success. Lastly, I would say that rec department staff are supporting the school grad committees that are planning graduation festivities and celebrations late next week. Some town facilities are being used for those, and we have some town staff supporting with some of the setup, though most of the setup is being completed by volunteers within the grad committees. Couple more updates regarding rec facilities. Port Landing season officially opened today. We had all the docks in and numbered. At this point, there are 4 slips, seasonal slips that are available. We've advertised for a lottery, which has a deadline of June 22nd. And so we're receiving applications for that lottery, and I'm confident we'll fill those 4 slips that were not filled at this point. We've also done some preliminary work at Port Landing regarding some retaining wall repairs. That work was to relieve some of the pressure on the retaining walls that have partially failed at this point, and also to investigate the structures and the structures that are there to hold those walls back. And we're confident at this point that we can wait until the water drops to do that work, but we will complete that work as soon as we can. Maintenance staff have done a lot of work in the last 2 days for mowing and upkeep of our green spaces and of our green spaces along the highways also. The rain last week and the warm weather of the weekend, I think council probably noticed that grass was growing very quickly, so we did have some catching up to do there. But we will get caught up and we'll have green spaces in good condition. I'd also like to underline that the community group litter pickup campaign is near completion. We've posted quite a few photos to the recreation Facebook page as well as the town's main Facebook page. All 12 spaces were assigned to community groups, and like I said, most community groups have completed their requirements and cleanup was done. Last update I'd like to share is that we've received our flowers and bedding plants for this season, and we will be deploying those on Thursday with some support from public works staff and a crew of volunteers that will help plant all the planter boxes around town. So we appreciate that support. Thank you.
Thank you. SEO Smith, next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't know if there's any questions.
Sorry, Councillor Doyle had a question.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Apologize there. Just in regards to Canada Day celebrations, I'm just wondering if we have or will be planning on reaching out to our local Indigenous groups. I know that, in light of the recent revelations about around some of these residential schools and things like that, it's becoming sort of a sensitive issue, and rightfully so. I'm just wondering if we've had any discussions or are planning on having any discussions with our local Indigenous groups on how we can celebrate Canada Day, but also, with that in mind, and how we can be sensitive to those realities there as well.
Yeah, potentially making the parade orange, I guess, is probably one of the suggestions I would make, but maybe directors of recreation has some additional comments.
I appreciate the question and the point. I think I'll discuss with SAO first and foremost, and then come up with a plan as to how we could communicate with local groups and see how we could accommodate.
Good. Any other questions for the Director of Recreation? Councillor or SEO Smith.
Thank you, Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And yeah, just on that last question there, I have had some communication with our programming supervisor, and I know there was some interest expressed there as well on that topic. So, so yeah, as the Director of Recreation mentioned, we will talk about it some more and see what we can offer. I'd like to go next to the Director of Public Works and Services, who's just returning back from vacation. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Your Worship. As SAO Smith mentioned, I've been off for the past week and a bit, so not a lot of updates from the Public Works side this week. Our capital projects, most of them have started up. The Riverview and Beaver project started up this week. Caribou is ongoing, as is the lift station project. We have our weekly meetings on all those projects tomorrow, so I'll get a better update then. ENR did their annual spring inspection last week. So we had staff out with them doing their inspection of all of our facilities and infrastructure kind of that's covered under our water license. No major issues arising from that, just a few minor items, some minor maintenance stuff that we have to do that we do on an annual basis. But from what I heard from that inspection, there's nothing major that was noted. We do have a couple of summer students, public works summer students in first aid this week. So they'll be in that the next couple of days. Our foreman is in town now. He is isolating. He is working through a lot of safety training. We've sent him a bunch of information to get him kind of up to speed and give him something to do during his 14 days of isolation. So learning about the town, our infrastructure, and any other information we can send his way. And I think that's about all my updates for this week. Thanks.
Council, have any questions for the Director of Public Works? Fresh off a holiday, he probably answered lots of questions, got lots of work to do this summer. And it was good to see, it is good to see around the community. There's a bunch of projects going on. I see they were pumping cement at the lift station today at my shop, by my shop there, and I see they're preparing a bunch of forming, I think, for the new building downtown there in the industrial area. So things are looking busy for the summer. So it's good to see. Director or SAO Smith.
Thanks, Your Worship. And yeah, just building on that and hopefully not duplicating anything I may have missed with the Director of Public Works. But yeah, I'm just going down Riverview Drive today. I'm not sure that our director has been there yet, but certainly see the signage and equipment moving around there. And communications earlier or last week went out about that project to the public and to residents. So things will be busy down there. Also met while the director was away, did meet with we are looking for some consulting support, I should say, on our truck water contract and going out for RFPs on that. So looking, to get some support on defining that scope of work and our service levels and cost estimating and getting the other terms for RFP documents together for this summer. We've also received an application from Housing for a duplex development on Saskatoon, and it's not meeting our zoning requirements. So we are outlining that process for appeal, and that would go through the Development Appeal Board if there is so needs to, if the applicant wants to go in that direction. And the comments earlier today about the crosswalk painting, I just want to thank the community really for making that suggestion, and our Public Works Department for putting that together quickly. It's a little early in the year for some of those painting activities, but we got some favorable weather, so we were able to that together. I'm in a power outage here. I don't know if anyone else is, but I guess we continue on. And I did want to thank Dana King as well, who helped with the design and getting the templates together from Poison quickly on that project. Our Director of Finance is still on vacation, is on leave at this point, so just a few items coming out of that department that I'm providing some coverage for as well is we held the tax auction last week. And there was quite a few people that attended. I want to say probably in the neighborhood of a dozen, and 6 properties were on the list. So and anything that was in arrears prior to that was addressed. We're losing some people here, so. Councillor Duford, you're the last councillor standing. Can you hear us?
I hear you, but I can't see you anymore.
Okay, well, we'll just pause for a few minutes here, and hopefully there was a power interruption, at least where I am downtown. So maybe some people were impacted. We should give them a few minutes to get back online.
Sounds good.
And council administrator, you'll accept them into the meeting. You keep an eye for them.
Yeah, normally it'll just pop right up onto the screen. I'm just waiting.
Okay.
Okay, I have Councillor Grunewagen and Deputy Mayor Bouchard coming back in.
Check one. Can you hear me now?
Hear you now. We lost several of the councillors during the power bump, so looks like we're starting to get people back online. So we've just paused while we wait for that.
Yeah, we'll just pause here. Are we still live?
We are.
Okay. Must be some lightning or something in the area.
Yeah, thunderstorms supposed to be in the weather down in the southern part of the territory. Lots of wind, lots of rain coming too, or in the forecast.
Councillor Anderson's just coming back in there. He just called me.
Technology, eh? It's good while it goes. Councillor Anderson back.
So we're still missing Councillor Chambers and Councillor Willows.
And Dowie, right?
Oh yeah, and Councillor Dowie, yeah. It was weird because all the councillors disappeared, but all the administration staff were still there.
It must be on the high-speed internet. The rest of us can't afford that, I guess. Just kidding.
We just don't stop working, that's all.
Yes. Very diligent. just to send a text to those three, see if we can get them on. Councillor Chambers is still reconnecting, she said.
She hasn't popped up in the waiting room yet.
Yeah. Councillor Dowie is as well trying to get the internet back up.
Did you guys' power actually go out?
Yeah, full blackout here. My laptop stayed on, but internet dies, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
we'll give them a couple more minutes. Stacey, we have enough for quorum, do we not? Need 4 or 5?
You have 3 right now, so you need 1 more.
Okay.
Councilor Chambers is coming in.
Welcome back, Councillor
Okay.
Chambers.
Now you got 4.
Excellent. SEO Smith, maybe we'll go back to you if you're available. Carry on, and hopefully the other 2 can join us back. Internet was a little slow getting back, so thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'll continue on. I'm not sure where I was cut off there, but just giving an update on some of the finance and admin activities while the director is on leave right now. We did hold the tax auction last week where there were 6 properties listed and 3 properties received bids and 2 deposits were actually placed. So one of the bidders did not submit their deposit. So those 2 properties will go through the process. The owner who has the arrears has a month to settle those with the town. Otherwise, they can be purchased by those that have submitted deposits. The high-rise, Mackenzie Place high-rise, was removed from the auction list late due to some proper notifications to some parties that held liens and mortgages. Some of those evolved through the process of the auction. So felt it was best in town's best interest to remove that from the listing. And on the new business today is rescheduling to accommodate that high rise for later this summer. Water and sewer bill. So our new rates are being applied to the June bills, which come out in July. The rate increase notices are on our May statements or statements that are being received in June. We are also hoping to work on some water conservation messaging that we will release with the new bills to help with cost controls for residents and businesses. The third thing is tax bills. So tax notices went out and were delivered a couple weeks ago now. The seniors discount verification has kept the staff busy with them coming into town hall to complete that process. And also right now we are working on our grant in lieu applications for payment. So that's with the GNWT and the federal governments for their properties that register as a grant in lieu as opposed to a tax, property tax. As for myself, just a few things from an HR perspective, covering that responsibility as we look to recruit for that position. We have been holding interviews this week. A few employee labor relations issues that we're dealing with. And we held the retirement recognition event for our departing fire chief last week. It was well attended by staff and council, so thank you for that. It was a good opportunity to say thank you from the town and their staff to our then fire chief, who's now the deputy fire chief as an official with the fire department, Ross Potter. Also attended and want to thank the fire department. They held their own retirement gathering as part of an annual recognition that they host with their fire department members. But did recognize Chief Potter for all his years of service in that role. We also held for staff a retirement planning session, and that was facilitated through our plan provider, RBC. And outside of that, the Director of Protective Services mentioned we'll be going on a tour this week to look at unsightly properties and discuss where we feel our prioritization should be with that, so we can start addressing that for the summer as part of our larger bylaw enforcement plan. And that's all the items that I have for you. And I actually do have one. I think our Director of Protective Services has been able to get a few stats together quickly for the question that did come from Councillor Willows. So if I may, if he is still online, you want to provide a quick update on what you pulled together, Director?
Yeah, sure. So I just quickly went through our billing for the month, the 32 calls. Of the 32 calls this month, 8 calls have been related to substance abuse. But I did also pull the stats previously for last month. We did 76 calls in the month of May, and we identified 18 of those calls were for the homeless population. So we did not collect all the substance abuse calls, but we did identify 18 of those 76 were of the homeless population in town.
So it's, somewhere around a quarter of the calls. Councillor Willows gives a thumbs up, so I see everybody's back. SAO Smith, thank you. Any questions from council for SAO or any other questions? Councillor Anderson, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I guess the question I have is the duplexes that we're talking about, is that the RCMP duplexes?
SAO Smith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do not believe so. It's for one duplex. I think it's part of some of the funding that's been announced more recently. So I do not believe it's for the RCMP. I don't have the specific intent for that design, but it is presenting some square footage considerable concerns for the current zoning that's available in Saskatoon Drive.
Yeah, I seem to recall the mayor stating last week or something that we had a new unit that wasn't expected, but it was being added. So, Councillor Anderson, you had a further follow-up?
Yes, further to that, I guess my concern is the RCMP housing that's being built in our community. I'm concerned about due to the size of these houses and homes. They are new, which is really nice to see. But the size of them, I think, is restricting or could restrict opportunity for attracting, let's say, seasoned RCMP officers to our community. or than more so just RCMP officers out of depot. I'm concerned about the direction we're going in with our policing in our community and the accommodations that we're providing the RCMP, or that are being provided to the RCMP because of that, and the duplexes that are being built. I wonder if we should hit the pause button, or I don't know if we can, but I would have to say that I am concerned about, and I think a lot of the community members are, about the housing we are offering the RCMP and the duplexes in particular. I mean, if they're an issue, or perhaps they may be an issue, I'd like to hit the pause button and see what the Housing Corporation is, what the plans are on these houses and so forth. I mean, really, I'm concerned about the attraction of seasoned RCMP officers to our community that can police our community moving forward with what's being provided now, and the housing that they have to what they've got now is smaller housing, and I'm concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. I know when we had a meeting with housing 2 months back, I know the mayor indicated those same concerns, and I don't know what housing, I don't remember if we got a response back from housing or not, but they, maybe SEO Smith has an update.
Thank you, Worship. I don't have an update on how that communication went. Really, from a municipal standpoint, we speak to zoning and allowances. There's restrictions on certain types. There's restrictions on all zoning types, and the Saskatoon Drive properties that I mentioned are R1B, so primarily for residential development, discretionary for duplexes. So there's some additional restrictions, I would call them, or controls in place there around, say, a multi-dwelling zoning, which we do not have any in our inventory at this point. So this is all very pertinent conversations, I would say, as part of our zoning and building bylaw update that were being completed. And as you'll note at the last meeting, we provided we are moving forward with that project and consultation. And council has provided some input to us on groups that should be consulted, and the Housing Corporation would be one of them, and several others. There is some pressures, I would say, for smaller and tinier homes in some areas, but obviously we're hearing some concerns in different areas of on the other end of on other areas of what we zone for. So all good input that I think we can consider into that zoning update.
Yeah, and I would just add that I know the mayor has had discussions with other communities and the government, because territorial governments take over some of that housing of RCMP and stuff. So she may have more of an update, but I'll ask her to maybe give us an update on what she has. And maybe, again, I think we've talked in coming up in the next is RCMP. So I think we've talked about maybe having some ongoing discussions on several different fronts. Maybe that's another one. But I know it's not the RCMP directly anymore. It's the actual, someone from Ottawa from the RCMP, but also dealing with the territorial government and Deputy Housing. So, yeah. Does the council have any other questions for administration? Not seeing any, we'll move on to item 7A, monthly police report for May. Can I get a motion to accept? Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Chambers. Any questions? Councillor Willows.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of comments, questions with regard to the report. I guess my very first question is one that I still can't seem to get a straight answer, and perhaps maybe the administration knows, or the mayor, I know she's been meeting with the RCMP, is when was the policy made that the RCMP would no longer, I guess, sort of operate a drunk tank, for less of a better word? I'm not sure what the proper word is. And I'm just wondering, is that a national policy directive that this is something they no longer do? Or is that a divisional decision where these things are, it just happens in the north? And I mean, I'm not necessarily questioning whatever the rationale of the policy. It is what it is, but it's created a whole whack of unintended consequences. And those unintended consequences, some of which we've already talked about, is the stresses that it's putting on our volunteer fire department, on our ambulance service, and on the hospital, where, as I'd mentioned earlier today, we're averaging 4 to 5 of these folks a night. And this is all new. I don't think it'd come as any surprise to anyone if they've been downtown in the last couple of months that the face of our community has changed drastically. And I certainly don't have all the answers, but my first question is, one, when was that policy changed and what was the rationale? And within the report, it indicates that, I mean, there was like one individual they picked up 25 times last month. There was another individual they picked up 20 times last month. And the quote was, until it takes a lot of, I guess, time and effort on the RCMP's part to locate a safe place for the individual. So I'm trying to figure out what is a safe place for the individual. Like, where do these people go, or where do they take them? So again, I know that the CEO of Hay River Health and Social Services has reached out to the mayor, and I think they have agreed to co-chair a stakeholders committee to try to address this issue from an interdepartmental point of view and stakeholder point of view, so that we can hopefully come up with some solutions, I guess, before winter comes. But not only that, to address the issues that we have in our downtown core, which are not particularly pleasant on some days. So those are my questions. I know we don't have a delegation here tonight, but hopefully administration can direct those questions to the RCMP so that we could figure out exactly what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willows. And I think, I think we had a little bit of an email chain, so I'm sure the mayor, when she gets back, will respond to some of those questions. I know, I'm not sure if the SEO has anything additional, but yeah, it's an ongoing concern. I was in Yellowknife last week. It seems like it's predominant there as well. So, and I've been hearing that, they just have the right, they're given the right, scenarios. They're saying I have chest pains when they're picked up. So it's kind of it's definitely an area of concern for, like you said, our fire department, and as well as the RCMP, as well as staff there. I've heard there's issues with them not following instructions very well there too. So SEO Smith, did you have anything to add, or maybe we'll take it as a note and move forward with it?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll just take it as notes and ensure, as you mentioned, the mayor's been connected in with some discussion on forming an interagency group. Obviously, we're on the ground here, but a lot of government operations, our government department, or GNWT departments, I would suggest, in federal, that have a very important role in this. So I've made note to follow up on the specific point brought up around acceptance into the RCMP facilities, and more information from the mayor to follow.
Does council have any other further questions on the report? Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I was just going to point out Councillor Willows has some really valid points. And, just to reiterate, the downtown core is really impacting, the community, and the loitering that's going on downtown, is not acceptable. I mean, we have to look at that and do something about it. I mean, in front of RBC and, and so forth, these businesses and so forth, we need to do something about that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I've heard several concerns too. Some people that were potentially going to move downtown and decided not to, just based on the same situation. I had another area of concern on, with the RCMP side, and lots of people are concerned about the amount of drugs in the community. And I know we a while ago, we used to have a canine unit, and obviously that's been moved to, I think, moved to Yellowknife, and it's, I mean, I don't think, yeah, it'd just be nice to see if we can do some more and more enforcement. I know Highway Patrol was very successful in doing some of those stops, and I think probably stop some of it because they don't have a canine unit, but just some of that stuff that I think the community is frustrated with, that we should try to alleviate some of it if it's possible, or if there's something that we can do for the RCMP to bolster and promote bigger budgets to help some of that stuff. I know it's probably a thing in all the communities, but it's definitely been an area of concern that I've been hearing from quite a few people. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just to reiterate too, I mean, the police force is part of our community and they do a good job. And I really am concerned about the housing that has been offered to these folks. I'm concerned about the future of the police forcing in our community with the accommodations that are being provided to them. And I would like to have more input from the GNWT or the Housing Corporation on that matter. Literally, these are matchboxes that these guys have provided, and we're expecting them to put the lives on the line and so forth. So, I'm not happy about it, and so forth. So I'd like to have that duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And yeah, on the housing issue, I have to say I'm on side with Councillor Anderson on that as well. When you look at the price to build these houses and what they've done to build there, and then expect our members to move their families into these small units, I don't think that that's really an acceptable solution there. And I also fully support the questioning from Councillor Willows. I think we all understand the situation that we're in. The town of Hay River just doesn't have the horses to deal with this growing health and social problem in the community, and it really is starting to have a really negative impact on our residents, and something needs to be done about it. So it's good to hear that we are moving those conversations upward as opposed to just voicing our frustrations amongst each other. One other thing that I have had quite a few people come and bring up to me, quite a bit of feedback, is on where the shelter was. I understand it may be opening again. I don't know where that sits. As of right now, there was a speed limit change on that highway from 60 to 50 in that one little about 100-meter area there. And it's turned into a speed trap because the shelter isn't open, and all that 50-kilometer zone is serving as right now is a speed trap. So if the shelter is going to open back up, that's great. But in the meantime, I think we should be going to infrastructure and seeing if we could get that changed, either changed back or temporarily suspended or something, because it's not serving any constructive purpose right now.
Agreed. Councillor Groenewegen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I want to echo that. I've had the same concerns raised to me by residents, and I know that at this time there is no intention to operate that shelter in the capacity that it originally started out in. So it's something that probably there needs to be further discussion on. But I definitely think that we need to make a move to see the speed limit restored to the way it was before.
Good. So to the motion, I'll call question. If there's no further questions. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8A, letter of support for Soaring Eagle Friendship Center. Sorry, let me find my page here. Have a motion before council. Councillor Willows.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that the council of the town of Hay River directs administration to draft a letter supporting the Soaring Eagle Friendship Center's application for Men's Healing Fund expression of interest.
And I had second by Councillor Chambers. Any questions? All those in favor? Was it a question, Councillor Dewey, or just ahead?
Aye.
All those in favor? One more time, sorry. Not used to the Zoom thing. Motion's carried. Item 8B, Disaster Assistance Program. We have a motion before you. Councillor Dewey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the council of the town of Hay River directs administration to apply to the government of the Northwest Territories, GNWT, for financial relief through their disaster assistance policy for costs arising from the 2021 river breakup flood damage to municipal owned infrastructure.
Seconded by Councillor Dufort. Questions? Councillor Willows.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just wondering, do we have an estimate of costs that we are applying for? Or is that an ongoing target? It doesn't, I don't see any mention of a dollar value in this motion anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. SAO Smith, do you have any details?
Thank you, Worship. So the maximum allowance under the disaster assistance policy as it stands right now is $100,000 for community government. There is also allowances for residential and other small businesses that may have been impacted. We have shared some of that information to the public in case there are interested applicants. So at this point, if we're still going through some of the assessments, you don't have to supply your budget yet, although the GNWT is asking for these to be submitted right away. So it's safe to say that our costs, depending on the options that we follow, would be over $100,000. So I have to work with the director of Public Works and Services to see which projects we want to focus on, but more than likely the berm and the road that's been impacted by the West Point First Nations would be where we would focus, but we'll see how far those dollars will go.
Thank you. Councillor Dewey, you had a question?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was also going to ask if we had any of those estimates, but also just want to say the last time we applied for this funding didn't go our way. I'm hoping that that we'll be able to get some funding out of this to mitigate the costs of the very probably significant costs of some of the damage that has occurred. I know, the government's going to be in a tough situation with all of the other flooding that's happened around the north. And I know that we were very fortunate to not end up in the situation that some of our neighboring communities were in, but that doesn't change the fact that there is significant damage to some of our infrastructure, and it will take a significant amount of money to address those damages and repair them. I know, some of the roads even that had just washed out from the flooding, it's going to be, I would say, tens of thousands at least for each little area there, and it does impact our community all the way around because these are obviously dollars that aren't budgeted for. So I'm just hoping that we're more successful this time around.
Good, thank you. Any other questions to the motion? All those in favor? Motion is passed. Item 8C, fees and charges bylaw report on bylaw 2431. Can I get a mover? Councillor Dewey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River accepts the report on the new bylaw number 2431, fees and charges as presented.
Seconded by Councillor Grenawagen. SAO Smith, do you have any comments on this report?
Thank you, Worship. I think everything's included in the report and then in the bylaw, but a bit of background. It has taken some time to develop this. Started in 2020. It's been through, I think, both the Policy and Bylaw Committee and the Finance Committee finally. And some of the elements have in themselves passed through their own bylaw readings and updates of rates, such as the utility or the water and sewer rates bylaw and the taxi bylaw. So there's also a couple elements in here. Most notably, I would probably point out is the like building permit fees and those that we are tying to are tying updates to our actual bylaw updates. So in that case, we have left the fees primarily as are or as they currently are in approved bylaws, and will be updated through that process. So other than that, other rates are in accordance with really inflation or in consideration of other communities. Some bylaws had not been updated in many years, others are more current and see some mild changes. But overall, having this bylaw is an excellent tool towards easily reviewing at budget season by council administration to determine if any changes are needed. Otherwise, it puts everything into one bylaw as opposed to reviewing 15 bylaws, that multiple, a dozen or so bylaws, I'll say.
Yes, thank you, S.A. Smith, and thank you to all the staff that worked on this. It's yeah, it is kind of an ombudsman bill that changes all the rates for different bylaws, and like you said, we can review, council and future councilors can review on a regular basis and change, as opposed to changing bylaws and having to review multiple bylaws. So I think it's great work. It's a great step forward for the community to keep up to date on some of that stuff. Any other further questions from council? To the motion, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8D, property tax auction. Can I get a mover? Sorry, Councillor Duford.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River, in accordance with the Property Assessment and Taxation Act, sets the date of a public auction where taxable property will be offered for sale on August the 12th, 2021 at 9 a.m. in Town Hall Council Chambers and through video conferencing, with the minimum sale price of each taxable property as presented in the report to council.
Seconded by Councillor Groenewegen. Questions to the motion? I just had a quick question. Are these all new properties, or some of them are repeats from the one we just held?
Thank you, Worship. They are all repeats with the addition of 3 Capitol Drive, which is the high rise, which, as I mentioned earlier today, was removed just for to correct a notification issue that arose.
Okay. To the motion, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8E, excused absence from Mayor Jamieson. Sorry, Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move the recommendation that the Council of the Town of Hay River excuses Mayor Jamieson from the regular meeting of Council Tuesday, June 15th, 2021.
Seconded by Councillor Duford. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8A, bylaw 2431. First reading. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Duford, seconded by Councillor Doherty. Councillor Duford.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move first reading of bylaw number 2431, fees and charges bylaw.
To the motion, any questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Second reading of bylaw 2431. Councillor Dowie, second by Councillor Duford.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move second reading of bylaw number 2431.
Questions to the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 9B, bylaw 2427, land disposal bylaw. You gonna move her? Councillor Duford,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move first reading of bylaw number 24. Whoops.
third and final, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move third and final reading of bylaw number 2427, land disposal bylaw.
Can I get a seconder to the motion? Councillor Dowie. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 8C, bylaw 2430, land dash or LND dash 21, land acquisition bylaw. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Dowie, second by Councillor Chambers. Councillor Dowie? First reading.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move first reading of bylaw number 2430.
To the motion, any questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Second reading of bylaw 2430 LND-21. Mover, Councillor Duford, second by Councillor Chambers. Councillor Duford.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move second reading of bylaw number 2430/LND/21, land acquisition bylaw.
To the motion, any questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. As there are no items on 10A, we will go to item 11. Councillor Willows.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move for adjournment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.